Hey guys, welcome back. It's close to the end of the year, and there's a lot of things that we should definitely think about. But I think friendship is probably one of the most important things to have. These next group of guys are great, and they really embody what friendship means, and I think you'll enjoy the conversation that we have. But first, let's take a look at today's lucky winner.
Congratulations! You're today's lucky winner. You're dead, but you've won a year back on Earth to do whatever you want. And I'll be your Grim Reaper chaperone.
Rita, why are you at my desk?
I'm talking to a lucky winner.
They aren't dead. I was going to tell them about the show.
The show where I helped my dead human friend Dawn prove that she was murdered?
Yeah.
The paranormal stoner comedy.
Yes, the scripted fiction show that's got fart jokes, sapphic romance, vampires, and acid trips.
Where would they find today's lucky winner?
On their favorite podcatcher app. Now get the out of my desk.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Behind. Today we get to go behind the podcast 2Nerds, a joke. And I would like to introduce you guys as probably best friends, if that's correct. And you guys look like you've been doing this for a while. They're on season 4 and episode 50. And if you guys could please possibly just give yourself an introduction, let people know who you are, and go ahead.
Oh, Ernie, we should do our typical.
Please.
Oh, should we come in proper?
Yes, please.
All right. Here we go. Well, I don't know. All right, let me do the intro.
There you go.
Thanks to Body Hot Girl Voice. This is 2 Nerds and a Joke with Robert and Ernie. I am Ernie.
And I am always remote and sexy Robert here for your entertainment pleasure.
My goodness, always too much. His side of the intro is always too much.
Always too much. But yes, to answer your question, we actually, before we became podcasting dynamos, if you will, we were actually friends and coworkers. We started off we wanted to have conversations, and I was actually, and Ernie, you'll get a kick out of this, I was going through some of the really, really old audio from, and we're talking, goodness, 6-7 years ago now. And we had this podcast episode we did, just an audio file, and basically says, okay, what is our show about? And it was this little meeting that Ernie and I had that said, okay, what are we going to talk about on the show? How are we going to introduce our show to the populace at large? And how do we do this? So we started out there, and we just had we walked to get coffee every morning from the office to the local coffee shop. And we just did these 2 nerds in a walk, and we would just walk along, and just the thoughts of the day, the show, the movies we were excited about, the TV show we'd watch, whatever it was. And it was like maybe 5-10 minutes, and you can catch those on our YouTube channel. And it was fun. It was entertaining, and people actually followed us on it. And we're like, okay, people seem to like this. Let's try and get some guests on. And we had no idea what podcasting really was all about, and we really had no clue as to how to be guests on a show or to get guests on our show. So we just hung out with some of our friends and hung out in Ernie's house and did our episodes right from there. And again, mostly video to start with. So,
Well, then from my pad, we ended up at an actual comic book store.
Yes,
like in their back room.
Okay.
Well, as you know, we're talking 2015, I want to say. So podcasting was starting to get on the climb. It seemed like that was the in thing to do at the time. Of course, the heavy hitters were already in place, but we didn't want to be like those guys, like the Joe Rogans, the Kevin Smiths, where they're 3 hours long and they're talking about everything. We were just like, let's just have a normal conversation as opposed to doing interviews. So we needed a place, because as much as I like where I live, Robert thinks that my place has too many echoes, like it's the Bat Cave or something like that.
it is.
And even though it kind of is, but he said the acoustics in it were bad. So we decided to start venturing out. Now we have in our general vicinity, I would say maybe 3 comic book stores. Out of those 3, We've probably been to 2 of them. And one of them is like Mecca for like South Florida. I don't know. Should we say the name? Is it a free plug?
I mean, as long as our host is okay with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's Tate's. All right, in Lauderhill,
Okay.
and it is probably the Mecca down here for anybody that has a hobby or into books or collecting comic books, movies, anime, you name it, you can get it there. And we were going to like essentially sell ourselves to the evil empire that is Tate's. Not so evil though.
No.
And try to see if we can get in their good graces to use some space. But then we were like, we don't want to be those sellout podcasters like we see all the time. Like we're like, we're gonna be indie. We're gonna buck the trend. So we found another one called Docking Bay 94, which I love the name. Great Star Wars reference.
Yes, awesome
And-
place.
Yeah.
But it's like much smaller. It's literally what, 900, 1,000 square feet, you would say, Robert?
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah. And he basically said, yeah, I'll let you guys use my space. I have this back room here you guys can use like on Tuesday nights after 6 o'clock.
Right.
And sure enough, Tuesday nights after 6 o'clock, we would go in there and we'd live stream. And sometimes we'd bring somebody from the job to, sit there. Sometimes we bring in other people. Sometimes we bring in comic book people, artists. And a lot of times, though, it was a lot of us arguing about, nonsense. It's like, what movie's going to make more money? What movies, came out that everyone liked that we just, picked apart? So we were kind of like, those guys that wanted to go counterculture, it seemed. Because everybody at the time was like praising the Marvel movies. This was like at the zenith of the Marvel thing. I think at the time the second Avengers movie had come out, the really bad one, the Ultron one. And so we were like, everybody was loving it except for me, and I guess Robert wanted to put that on display. So
Yeah, because it was one of those things. Because Ernie has some very juicy opinions on things that are fun opinions. They're not, and the thing that we've always tried to do, especially when we argue like that back and forth, is like, okay, we're not going to be mean to each other. We're not going to be mean to the filmmakers and just bash it. We're going to give some legitimate things that we didn't feel was good about the movie, or we felt were a little bit, unuseful or whatever it might be, as the case may be, and try to give it a fair shake rather than be all harsh to it or all nice to it. Kind of give it a balanced opinion more than anything. And,
Right.
Everything has a redeemable quality of some sort. Not be, if something's a piece of what, we would definitely say that, but we'd say, but even though it was a piece of, it did have these specific moments or the specific thing that was actually rather enjoyable. So we always try to do that, be those guys that weren't like, oh, they're so extreme and they're out there on the edge. And no, we're kind of, we promoted ourselves for a long time as the Every Nerds podcast. You don't have to be a fan of any one thing. At some point, we will talk about whatever your thing is.
That's awesome.
From furry to Pokemon and back again. Because either Ernie or I, between the two of us, had touched upon or know people or been involved in some fashion in most of those realms, whether it's through friends of ours or personal,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You guys sound like you knew exactly what you wanted to do and you did it. And that's, I can't say the same thing. I've been wanting to do a podcast since I graduated from school in 2012. Got my bachelor's degree in audio production.
Nice.
And I've been telling my wife, I've been bending her ear. I'm like, hey, I want to do a podcast and I think it's going to be like this. Oh no, I think it's going to be like this. And I would come up with all these ideas and then I would just never do it. And then 2020 happened and I was like, okay, if I don't do something now, I'll never do it in my life. And so she's been pushing me and now I'm here. Now I get to meet really cool people like you guys. So the next question is, who is the fan favorite?
Ooh, it depends on what you're looking for. Like, Ernie has that. I mean, out of the two of us, I feel he is the more adorable one. So I think he has that kind of going for him. Like when we go to like a Tate's or like a Docking Bay or someplace where people know us and know of our show, they tend to levitate towards him more, and they kind of go up to him more and want to talk to him. Okay. But on the actual shows, like as far as listening, I seem to feel that more people like the way I kind of just my extreme nature of the things I say, and then Ernie's reactions to it. So it depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, we have a very diverse fan base, which is kind of strange because we aren't really promoting ourselves as as the every nerd. But we're surprised by we have fans literally all over the world. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, I guess it's
Well,
really.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, what do you
All
think,
over
Ernie?
the
Do you
world,
think you're more
so
of a
to
fan
speak. What
favorite
do
than I am?
No, 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 no. I would say it's equal dislike for both of us, I think. 'Cause we're bound to say something, either one of us is bound to say something that's gonna like tilt your ear the wrong way.
Oh
But
yeah.
gosh, I don't know. If I had to think about like now is the question like a like if I had to pick like one of our guests that have been on the show, like my favorite, or is it so much like something that we've seen or read about us?
Oh, I don't want to like make you call out like which guest was your favorite, but I mean like I'll be honest. Like this is my podcast, and I've had my wife on for one episode, and it seems like she's more favorable than I am. So I get it. I totally get it.
Well, in that case, I will say there is one podcast episode. It was a comic book day sale at Tate's, and we were in
Oh yes,
this.
I remember this one.
So this was a really good one, and we were in the car doing the podcast, and it's on YouTube, and it's one of our most popular because in the back seat between the two of us is my wife, and as nerdy as we are, she's just as nerdy. And I don't remember what she was arguing with us about that we were so totally wrong on, but she went off on a tangent, and that is literally one of our most popular episodes. So I've tried to have her come on a couple more times, but she's refused since. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like we try to be as inclusive as humanly possible. So, but yeah, I feel it just depends on what you're looking for as far as the fan base goes. But I feel that Rudy's more the guy in person that you'd want to talk to. I've been told I'm intimidating. I don't know. I don't see it. But
He's not intimidating. It's just that he's 6 foot tall and he looks like that guy that easily has a white panel van. That drives slowly around little children's playgrounds.
Wow.
Wow.
Ernie.
It's going that way. It's going that way. Yes, it is.
That's
No,
awesome.
Robert seems like the guy who would be a great accountant. Like he's probably the podcast accountant or like the technical guy. But yeah, he does a lot. He does the production, he does the editing, the sound stuff. He does a lot of the scheduling. So I think when we're out in the public, I want to say, Robert, you probably hit it right on the head. People seem to come up and talk to me about things. And I don't know, maybe because it's the t-shirts I wear. I always seem to wear a Star Wars or comic book shirt wherever I go. And I usually try to get the ones that nobody has.
Yes.
So
You
kind
do
of
have
draws
some
attention to
unique
myself. Yeah.
I also like I was watching some of your videos. I also noticed that Ernie, you have a resting smiling face. You have one of those faces that is approachable. People like to see it, So it could be just something as small as just the dialect of your body language,
Yeah, I come off as his bodyguard, I feel, most of the time. I'm this bald, goateed guy who's just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to mess you up if you touch my boy.
You got to get yourself a little earpiece.
Something, I don't know. I mean, it was funny, too, because we used to do cons, and one year for con, I always try to dress up in a functional way because we used to work a con. So I wanted to dress up, but I didn't want to dress up that was really overbearing or just a little too much because I had to sit in it all day. So one year I went very simple, and I put a fake tattoo of a scorpion on my head because obviously, as you may see from our podcast, we're both bald. So I put a fake tattoo. I went around, and there were comic book artists out there, like legit, like real comic book guys that were doing like, publications and stuff. And they were like, dude, you've got to be so hardcore to get a tattoo on your head.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I guess I look like the type. I don't know. Sure. I'm ferocious.
That's
But you
that's
know,
awesome.
a funny thing about that, and Robert can attest to it. I'm probably a very shy person by nature. Like even at the
Hmm.
Comic Cons, and like they like people who go there dressed up for the occasion. You know, I want to like get their picture with them, but like when I go and talk to them, like nothing comes out. It's like nothing comes out. They think I'm mute or something like that. They're like, oh, this special man wants to have a picture. You know, I should pose with them. And then I get like all like, oh shucks, you know, duh, you know. It's
It's pretty funny, especially around
but
the attractive
yeah.
female variety of cosplayer. He
Oh,
just loses
Oh my
his
gosh, the
yeah.
what the apex of the Harley Quinns. Remember
Yes,
that
we
was what
actually
2017, 18.
that
Yeah.
yeah, and we actually got a picture of that, and we had it framed and sent to you. Yeah, that was fantastic. You just were a nervous wreck. It was hilarious.
that's the most beautiful thing when you watch your friends just like crash and burn.
Oh yeah, it's
I
the best
think
part.
if your friends can't laugh at you, then they're not your friends.
Yes.
So, Robert, I'm going to ask you a question about Ernie, and Ernie, I'm going to ask you a question about Robert.
Ooh.
Robert, who is
Yes.
Ernie's favorite DC character? And Ernie, who is Robert's favorite MCU character?
Ooh. Well, I'm going to go with the easy. This is the top of the line pick here. This is just anything to do with Batman is Ernie all over it. I mean,
Okay.
he has been a Bat nerd forever.
I love it.
Ernie, that's your turn.
Oh yes. Sorry about that, guys. I was talking on mute. I was like, yeah, man, he nailed it. For Robert, it is Peter Parker, Spider Man, the reluctant hero.
I wish I could
The
say you were wrong.
awkward. I just want to be.
I love it. I love that
You
you
know,
guys,
he's like,
you knew it.
I've always been such a huge nerd for everything Spider-Man. I don't know why, but yes, the reluctant hero, the aw shucks kid. You know, I just it's always been a huge fan favorite of mine. I love all the things Spider-Man, but a secret underpining is I'm a secret huge fan of Wolverine because that's who I want to be, even though I really come across as more of a Peter Parker.
Okay. And Ernie, what is Robert's favorite DC character? And Robert, what is Ernie's favorite MCU character?
Robert's favorite DC character. I could have so much fun with this
Yeah,
one.
this is where you can totally make it up and give a totally wrong answer, and it will be really funny.
I want to say that, and I'm gonna say this only because you know I know Robert kind of well about this. I'm gonna say it's Big Blue, and the reason why I say that is because everyone thinks that Superman's biggest weakness is kryptonite, and it really isn't. It's the fact that there's two things. Superman can't save everybody. All right, so that's one of its biggest flaws. The other thing is that women
Oh.
totally control him.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. This is who my favorite character was, not what I'm like as a person, Ernie. Come on now.
I think he relates to the Big Blue. It's Superman, DC by far. He has, and don't let him fool you. He has the death of Superman, and
Yes.
you know he cries every time he thinks about it.
It's
You know,
sad.
so
That's funny. Robert, your revenge on Ernie?
Revenge on Ernie. You know what? I'm going to go for broke here, Ernie. Ready for this? It's going to be Captain Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
oh, ouch.
That went for the burn
You
there,
mean
my
Cosmic Karen?
It's
Cosmic Karen,
Karen.
or the actual Cap?
See, and that's why it's his favorite, because he loves to complain about Cosmic Karen so much. And that she's not the real Captain Marvel. That's why he's her favorite.
I love it. What for both of you, what was the pivotal moment that you were like, oh, I'm a nerd. I love this that's in front of me. What was the medium? What was the thing that just flipped the switch that you knew you were gonna be a nerd for the rest of your life?
Well, I know for me, it started with action figures, actually. when I was really, really young, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 70 or 80 years ago, um, action figures were the huge thing. Like I would have whole setups and scenarios and storylines with my Wolverines and my Magnetos and my Batmans and Spawns and all those old action figures. I wasn't a guy who's going to put them up on a shelf, but it wasn't appropriate to play with dolls. So I bought as many action figures as I could get my hands on. And back in those days in the 90s, they were dirt cheap. So I'd have a whole collection and play with them. And I was like, this is a little bit of an obsession. Maybe this is a thing for me. I don't know. Let's see where this goes. And then, of course, I had the Lego castles and all that kind of stuff too. And then watching the X-Men TV show. I mean, I literally grew up as a young kid in that very specific era where there were a lot of really good animated TV shows on that just, if you were anything interested into good stories or even just interesting stories that didn't apologize for themselves, that was the time to do it. And I just think I kind of fell into that realm because of all those pieces.
Dude, right on. Good origin story.
Yeah. Ernie's, yours was pretty cool too, right?
In Marvel.
You're still on the Captain Marvel.
Yes. Mine goes. Still fuming about that. No, mine goes back a few decades, right? It was. I want to say it was after my first time really understanding how big Star Wars was, and then going to The Empire Strikes Back and going to The Return of the Jedi. I want to say it was about 1984 when there was nothing left of Star Wars. And I realized that like the toys that I had and everything else, like kids that were my age, it was a little bit different time. Like we all had to, play in a baseball league or in a soccer league or bowl. So it was a lot of that. But like when you weren't doing that and you were just talking about things, you would hang out over each other's house. And I remember realizing at one point that all these guys that I was meeting, all these kids that I was meeting in school, they all wanted to hang out at my house because like I had all this cool stuff. Like I had the Star Wars, the vehicles and the action figures. I had the comic books and everything else. And I just saw like how like happy it made people feel. Like when we would sit there and we would just go through like a stack of like early 80s X-Men, like Uncanny X-Men, and like the expression people would get. And I want to say it was during that time I was like, you know what? I think this is me, Like I like those movies, those weird movies that make you think, or like just those movies that like speak to you, TV shows. And then it kind of went dark for a little while. The 90s, I want to say, was kind of hard on nerds. People were closet nerds back in the 90s. It wasn't until like, I want to say like maybe 2010-ish, that it started getting back in the vogue again. And that's when I was like, wow, Ernie's been like talking about this stuff for years. Maybe there's something to it. And yeah, that's just been my genesis of it. So I want to say back 84-ish, I want to say I realized this is who I was, and I was okay with that.
That's awesome. Mine was I was 4 or 5. It was the 90s, and I watched Power Rangers for the first time.
Ah, yes.
And Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and specifically, it was the episode that the Green Ranger was introduced as a good guy.
Oh, that was that's classic stuff right there too.
Yeah, I mean, you can look back at any story really, and the bad guy turning good is like it's everywhere. You'll find it in the Bible, you'll find it in history texts. It's all over the place. But as just a kid, that guy stuck out to me. And then he busted out his little dragon flute, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's music, it's martial arts, it's robots that fight each other that are huge. And since then, it's just been taken off. I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I love Power Rangers still to this day. Video games. I'm in comic books. I'm all over the place. I'm not a master of anything, but I'm a jack of some trades. And I really love to hear like people's origin stories on why they're interested in that stuff. But now I'm about to ask you a real question. It's one of the most important questions of our generation, of maybe our century. Star Trek or Star Wars?
I think we're both going to go the same way on this. As much as I enjoy a good cerebral Star Trek, right now, it's all about Star Wars.
Yep.
It just is. Star Trek is very good, and I've always enjoyed it. And I always say this on our show: we're not going to, we don't play favorites, but we still play favorites. I enjoy both, but realistically, with everything that's going on with Star Wars right now, it's just completely more engrossing.
All right. I grew up on both. My dad is OG Star Trek. And also in my house, it was Star Trek all the time, except for when Star Wars came out, it was only the 3 movies, right?
Right.
So once those came out on VHS, I was able to watch those and like burn holes through them, basically. But other than that, like I grew up like loving Star Trek. Even The Next Generation, I think, is arguably one of the best shows ever produced, and it still holds up. I think a lot of the Star Treks that have come since have tried to capture the magic of The Next Generation, but it's never going to happen. Like I hold that show in such high regard.
Right.
It's hard for me to pick a favorite. I can tell you why I like both. I like both because I like Star Wars because to me Star Wars is less talking, more action. Like everything looks used in a Star Wars movie. Like the ships are dirty, the consoles are worn out, the uniforms are tattered. When you go to Star Trek, everything's very clean, very, very sterilized, very much, form, function, pristine. But I like that Star Trek is more allegorical. And I think that's the best sci-fi that you can get is when it's allegorical. When it means, even though it's sci-fi, it means something to you. Like to me, Wrath of Khan is probably one of the best movies ever made. It's one of those movies where like you kind of like see yourself going yes at the end when the hero comes through. But man, it's so hard for me to pick a favorite. I'd have to lean more on Star Wars just because it's closer to my heart.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, to me, it's exactly the same. Star Trek is a really close second, and Star Wars is the epic tale. Star Wars is the epic Beowulf, piece of literature that is just everyone knows it. It's that tale that you just can't put down. And Star Trek to me was how I would prefer society to go. It was more realistic in my little head back then, and it was one of those I couldn't compare them because they are completely different. Just like you said, the technology in Star Wars is busted up. It's kind of like how real life is. You drive down the road and not everybody has a nice clean car. And in Star Trek, it's everybody's already put their differences aside in society and we're moving forward and everything is perfect. Money has no value, So I think you guys are right up my alley with that right there. But I know you guys mentioned that you guys like sports and stuff. What's your guys' favorite sports and why?
I'm going to leave this one to Ernie to go first because my favorite.
Poor Robert. Would you consider what you do a sport? I mean, Magic, Pokemon, Bakugan. I don't know if you consider those sports.
I am definitely the least athletic of the two. I will agree. Whenever there's a sports topic, we rely heavily on Ernie's vast knowledge of all things sports. I do enjoy the athleticism. I used to be a huge baseball fan back in the day when I was a kid, but I wasn't enjoying it for the sport. I was an autograph hound. And because I lived in Florida, I go to all the spring training games and get all the autographs of the players. I could give two hootenannies about the actual game. I was there for who's the biggest star I can get on an autographed baseball card today. That was my thing. So never really played any sports, never really. I admire it from a distance. I'm not going to be that nerd who's like, oh, sports, you. No, it's more of, it's really going to be, I just enjoy watching football. If I have to say a sport that I enjoy watching is my favorite. But Ernie has the real passions for sports, right, Ernie?
Oh my gosh, the passions. Let's see. There's baseball's close to my heart. That's more like a family passed down tradition, right? Very pastoral. You could take a nap, wake up, and the pitcher's still warming up. Take another nap. It's the batter takes a couple practice swings. Um, so that to me is more like a generational thing. My grandparents passed that on to me. My dad passed that on to me. Passions, I want to say like football, I guess, because it's very much timed, and like you see the bigger than life people like playing that game. Basketball to me is an individual game disguised as a team sport. But you get to see how people come so close to achieving their dreams, and it just gets pulled away. You kind of see both sides of it, like the extreme joy and like the extreme disappointment in basketball, partly because you can see their faces. They're not covered up in equipment or anything, unlike the other two sports. I don't consider hockey a sport because it doesn't involve a ball. Soccer, growing up overseas, you had to watch soccer. So, and they're the rivalries, we talk about rivalries in sports here, college football has I think just recently it was the 120th game for Army versus Navy, and people say how insane that is. Well, if you go over to Europe and you see that these two soccer teams have been playing for 600 years, right, and they have this rivalry, you're like, holy cow, 600-year rivalry, got it. Gosh, I want to say the sports for me, I want to say it would lean more toward Olympic style sports, because they're not yet hit with the big money. They're really there for to show hey, I really enjoy doing this. This is what I love, and I want to share this with everybody.
Yeah.
So for me, that I kind of lean more towards those sports.
I absolutely love it. Like you guys, baseball was very important to me. My favorite team of all time is the Seattle Mariners, 1994. You got your Randy Johnson, Ken Griffey Jr., Alex Rodriguez.
It was prime time for that team. I always
Yeah.
wish they did spring training down here. I mean, I would have killed to meet those guys. Jesus.
Yeah, that really,
Yeah.
that's what got. I mean, I played baseball all through elementary, middle school, and then high school. They threw it too fast for my scared body, and
Oh,
and
that sucks.
Nowadays, I think I could probably take a hit. I'm a little thicker, So I want to be respectful of you guys' time. Ernie, I know you're on a cell phone. If you have the Google app and you just type in "roll dice," you'll see a little thing pop up that has the D&D dice roll. Robert, if you want, you can click on that link I posted in the chat, and it'll show the same thing.
I just did it. I feel like I'm in one of my Thursday night games right here now, which is another one of our passions, is role playing.
I love D&D, and I would love to get you back to talk about it.
Yes. Oh, that is such a big part of my early nerdum days of like I was telling you about, meeting people, and you would say something and somebody would pick up and say, do you play D&D? And then next thing you know, they're coming over your house to do a campaign from Friday night until Sunday morning. It's like a 2-day long campaign, man, just living off of sodas, junk food, and 2 hours of
Cheetos,
sleep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would definitely love to have you guys back. I think your guys' chemistry, just together, and then the jokes we have, they're all inside jokes to the nerd community. But I 100% think we could talk a whole episode about D&D.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
we definitely need to do that. Now I rolled a 3. Speaking of,
Wait.
No,
When
no
I went
one's.
onto the
You can't
webs-
roll yet. You can't roll yet.
Yeah, you can't roll.
dang
it,
it, I
you
rolled too
cheater.
soon. Dang
Yeah.
it, I always do that in D&D
So-
too. I'm always a
So I'm
re-roller.
actually gonna turn my camera on so you can see what I roll.
Okay.
Because I've lost every single roll since I started this podcast.
Oh
I
dear.
started this podcast thinking it was going to be something to do with D&D because I loved it, and then I was like, you know what, I'm interested in a lot more than just that, but I'm definitely keeping this same aspect.
Okay.
And what we're rolling here for right now is a comic book artist has called one of us to be the main hero in their next comic book. And who is it going to be? And we're just going to roll a 20 and just use the result of the 20. You guys are the guests, so please go first. One of you, either one.
I'm rolling now.
Oh, you guys are in trouble. I got an 18.
Oof. I rolled just under you, Ernie. As I always say, I come in right behind you in so many ways. I rolled a 17.
This is behind the
Oh, that's
behind,
so
so
dark.
I get it.
That's so dark.
You guys got some very big rolls, and I'm rolling, and I got a 7.
Ooh.
Oh,
At least you
Single
keep
digit.
your streak going. That's what it's
Yeah.
about, right?
I will be the pet dog in the comic book. I think you guys look. One of you is going to be the main, and one of you is going to be the sidekick. I think that's just how it's going to be. But right now, this is your guys' red carpet. Let people know how to reach you, how to listen to your podcast, where they can go. Any other little tidbits you want to put in there? This is your time.
Ernie, shall I?
go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. I will do my spiel. You can like us and love us, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and of course the Healthy and Nice Tumblr these days. You can also follow us.
Not the bad Tumblr.
Not the bad Tumblr from the old days. I miss it so. You can also follow our podcast wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, all those places. And of course, please watch our episodes on YouTube. Any place you go, you literally just type in 2 Nerds and a Joke, and you will find information on us. I did this search a couple times on Google, and I found us a couple of places. So we're out.
Yeah, we have given our souls to the Google search gods,
Yes.
our overlords.
Yes, we have an iPad that we lay offerings on every solstice, so we believe we'll continue to be the minions of darkness there.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and please don't ruin this reboot of Firefly for me. Please don't ruin it.
Don't even start. They're gonna make it PG. I'm so distraught by that. I want that line. I've had nothing twixt my nethers that didn't run on a battery in such a long time. They're never gonna get that line in a PG rated version of it. I'm so depressed.
Oh no. Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming out and giving me some of your time. I cannot wait to keep listening to your podcast. It's so good. I think your guys' chemistry bouncing off each other is perfect. And you guys are on your way to being a staple in the nerd community. And I really appreciate you coming on.
From your mouth to somebody's ears, dude. I would love that.
Yes, we do. We do this for the fans, actually.
Yes, I love it. Well, guys, thank you guys for listening. If you guys want to tweet at us, you can find us at BTBehind on Twitter. If you or someone you know has a really cool story, or you are involved in something super interesting, send us an email at btbehind@gmail.com, and we'll get you up on the show. Sometimes we do this on Twitch as well. We'll record the podcast. You can find that at GoodGoodBoy123, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it.